Top of the morning to you, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and it's the day before Halloween. And with me, as always, is my talented and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and welcome to all my goblins and ghouls to A Hallows Eve. Timstradamus, would you like to hear about the ghostly chicken of Highgate, London?
I'm interested.
So, once long ago, there was a gentleman called Francis Bacon. He was a politician and a writer, and he also dabbled a little on the scientific side as well. He thought that there was a correlation between preserving meat by freezing them. So, one day he decided to go ahead and prove this, went to get a chicken, of course plucked it and unfortunately killed it, and then stuffed it with ice to preserve the meat. Unfortunately, I think that chicken had the last laugh, because that chicken actually ended up being his demise. He unfortunately died of the chill. And they say that at Highgate, London, on Pond Square, this ghostly, foul apparition decides to show its clucking face.
What? What's the chill?
The chill? It's when you get a really bad cold, and unfortunately back at, I believe he was in the 1600s, a little cold can actually end up being your death.
What a buckingly good story.
Thank you. I know it was a grave problem on his part.
For new listeners, Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for thought.
Looks like we have some new shout-outs to make.
Yes, we have 4 wonderful patrons. Thank you, MZK, Mandy Guetta, Meowceratops, and Cassie Paul. We appreciate your support.
Love each and every one of you. Thank you so much. And we have one more shout-out to make. We actually bumped into a listener on our DC trip.
Yes, we met Naomi.
It was very interesting and probably one of the highlights of our vacation.
Very surreal feeling, and Naomi was absolutely sweet.
And how we actually met Naomi was Voyse had a question that she was asking her. We were in the Smithsonian at the time. As Voyse is talking to her, she looks up at me and she kind of gives a little bit of a jump.
It was so cute.
She says, "I think I recognize you from somewhere." And then Voyse goes, "Would it happen to be Timstradamus?" I was very embarrassed, but the odds of that actually happening, Voyse did like a number crunch and it should never have happened.
Yes, it was statistically 0.000005% chance to actually meet any listener in public.
We're actually a very, very small channel and we understand that. So we made a joke a little while ago that we'll probably never run into that situation in our lives. But yeah, it was amazing. Thank you so much, Naomi. You were very sweet. It was one of the highlights of our vacation. Thank you so much.
Oh, yes. Naomi, your energy was absolutely sweet, and it truly infused us with so much positivity. We just could not stop talking about it throughout the rest of our trip.
So, Voyse, what have you brewed today?
Well, I crafted you a brew that has spearmint, cinnamon, orange peel, cloves, and just a dash of vanilla.
Ooh. Oh, man. Yes. Just yes.
It's like a cooling flavor coming right into your mouth.
Christmas. There's a lot of mint in there.
Yes, it's the spearmint. I didn't go stingy this time.
5 out of 5.
Yes. Well, while you go ahead and enjoy your morning brew, why don't we go ahead and delve into these stories? For any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below. For our first story, am I the a-hole for not being happy when my little sister is getting married? I, 28 female, am not happy for my little sister, 19 female, getting married. We don't have any family left other than a distant uncle who lives across the country and couldn't care less about us. I have tried to be the best role model I could be for her since we lost our only parent so young, but I feel like I failed. My little sister met this cook at the restaurant she works at, and I don't care what he does for a living. It has nothing to do with that, but he's 39. He is 39 years old and just put a ring on my 19-year-old little sister's finger. I met him once before, and I didn't realize he was that old, to be honest. He looks good for his age, but I also didn't think they would end up together, so I didn't think to press on it. She is constantly dating all these men, probably to make up for her severe daddy issues that I also have, But we don't need to get into that. I feel terrible because my sister was so excited to tell me she's engaged and I flipped out on her. I told her how disgusting it is that he is an old man and that she wouldn't be able to live her life the way she wants to with a guy like that. She left my house crying and won't answer me. It's been 2 weeks. Am I the a-hole?
How scandalous to kick off Monday with. So we'll walk into this story because there is unfortunately a giant age gap between ROP's sister and her soon-to-be husband. She says that her sister is 19 years old and her fiance is 39. If we put that into perspective, when her sister is 9, he's 29. That could be his kid, math-wise.
You're not wrong.
There are a lot of relationships that stuff happens within. The one thing I can say on those things is when you have big age gaps like that, there can definitely be a abuse of power. I think ROP has every right to be concerned for her sister. ROP needs to be careful because by being as brash as she was, when her sister comes to her and says she's getting married, you've pushed her away. And in your own words, you say that you two are the only family that you each have left, who she got to turn to. When that road does get tough, because all relationships do have their ups and downs, by you doing this, she may not have someone to confide in. You could be pushing her more towards him. In the end, OP, I don't believe you're the a-hole. I would just be careful on how you approach that subject when and if your sister does come back to you, because you're isolating her from the only family she's got to. And at 19, especially if she's walking into that type of relationship, she might need someone that's not her fiance to get some advice from. You're allowed to be concerned as her older sister, though.
So, the consensus on Reddit was, our OP's not the a-hole. And let me go ahead and provide the viewpoint of one of the commenters. They said, you're not the a-hole for your concern. You are the a-hole for your reaction. Now, one of the things I can say is, as you've pointed out, Timstradamus, he can very much start isolating her. And with them being only each other's little family unit, that isolation can be a very huge and detrimental thing in their relationship. She's still really young, just essentially out of high school. There's a lot that she has to experience in her youth. And to have someone who's already experienced that, I feel that there's a lot of potential manipulative doors that he could take to make it where she would be dependent on him. And those are my concerns with this type of relationship. Now, I have to say, I have no issues with huge age gaps when it comes to couples. I've met, and even my parents had a huge age gap. The difference, when my parents got together, my mother was close to 30. I think for that, when having someone experience their youth and their mistakes as it is, to then go into a relationship with someone who's much older and has also experienced their share of mistakes, I think tends to be fine. If this age gap happened when her sister was 29 and he was 49, I don't think I'd be as bothered. But the fact that she's 19 and really is just a young adult.
Still a baby.
And he's already experienced that young adult. Those are my concerns. And I felt like throughout all of the comment sections, those were also their concerns as well. I just wish them the best. I hope that she does apologize to her sister for reacting so strongly and that they mend their relationship. Well, let's go ahead and walk away from this tough situation and see if I can put you into an even tougher one. For our next story, am I the a-hole for making a joke about my wife's intelligence?
Zoinks.
My wife has an extremely big heart and cares for everyone around her. She always tends to see the absolute best in people, which leads to people taking advantage of her. She's been robbed because of her optimistic outlook on life. My wife is the timid type, never the confrontational type, and not the sharpest tool in the shed. I have a very good friend whom I'm referring to as Stan for anonymity purposes. Stan and I have been friends for a very long time, and he is an extremely intelligent man with a PhD and a professor at an esteemed university. When restrictions eased, Stan came to visit me. My wife is very interested in Stan's line of work. When I introduced Stan to my wife, she began to ask him questions all related to his career. He answered them politely, but it felt more like an impromptu interview than two friends catching up when my wife was around. I told my wife that her fascination with Stan's career could possibly be making him very uncomfortable. She apologized and promised to not ask questions and only speak when spoken to. I invited Stan and his wife to a friendly dinner, and Stan's wife complimented my wife on her multilingualism, and my wife would not stop gushing about it when they left. She's very insecure in the presence of very intelligent people, and getting a compliment from an extremely intelligent person, especially a linguist, must have boosted her self-esteem. I politely asked her to stop talking about my friends, but she started rambling about how someone saying, "You sound like a native," is a very meaningful comment to her considering a bunch of other factors. I made a harmless joke about why she's so surprised about someone complimenting her intelligence is because she's not that intelligent. Instead of laughing along, she got offended, and I tried to explain myself by saying that no normal person would keep talking about one compliment that a stranger gave to them, and that I knew that she was obviously insecure being in the presence of very intelligent people, and the compliment is acting as compensation. She's very upset with me, and I've tried to have an adult conversation with her, but she's not listening to me. So, am I the a-hole?
Sweet zombie apocalypse. This story is terrible. This is coming from the husband, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, he thinks of himself very highly from how he's speaking about his wife.
Some would say too highly.
Yeah. And he thinks very lowly of his wife to a point where it sounds like he gives her zero assurances, zero compliments, zero support. If your wife is acting like that when she does get a compliment from someone, the reason why she's so enamored and engrossed in it the way she is because she probably never receives any of that from you ever. That shows more about you than it does your wife. I'm almost a little overwhelmed by how abusive you are to your wife. And I wonder how much you talk to her this way and other aspects of your life together, where it's so easy to just drop those type of things. Well, you enjoyed these compliments because you're just clearly not as intelligent as everyone else. What?
But wait, that's just a joke.
No one's laughing. 100% OP. You are a dirtbag.
Well, the consensus on Reddit is overwhelmingly he is the a-hole. In fact, let me go ahead and read his edit. He says, "I get it. I'm an a-hole. I'll apologize and try to fix this." He actually puts in the comment section that him and his wife are going to start doing couples counseling and hopes to revisit some of his views. I think the thing that really shocked me about all of this is there wasn't one kind thing that he ever said to his wife throughout all of this. I can understand being optimistic, but the way that he puts it is honestly like she's some dumb bitch. And it's so shocking to hear how awful he thinks of her good qualities. Why would you marry someone like that if that's how you're thinking of them?
To control them.
Awful. Simply awful. It makes my stomach drop.
I'm happy that he saw what was going on and he's like, hey, I want to get into couples counseling and try to fix this. I am happy for that, but I'm still upset that it shouldn't have taken a listing on Reddit for the internet to point out how terrible a partner you are.
Agreed. Well, let's go to our next story. Am I the a-hole for telling someone I never desired a daughter and didn't try for a girl? Weird question, but I have 4 sons. They are 14, 12, 8, and 4. The older 2 are biological, and the younger 2 were adopted after a birth complication made us infertile. I was at the park over the weekend with my younger 2 boys. I got to chatting with another couple and mentioned that I had 4 boys. She said something like, "Oh, you poor thing. I wanted a girl too, but he," pointing to her husband, "didn't want me to have a 3rd. I told her that I didn't try for a girl, and that if I wanted a girl, we could have put that in our adoption paperwork, but we didn't have a gender preference. I had no strong desire for a girl and love having sons, so she has no reason to feel sorry for me. It rubbed me the wrong way that she said, 'Poor thing.'" Like my boys aren't good enough for me, and she said it right in front of them. They already have to field questions about being adopted. They shouldn't have to feel bad about their gender too, you know? Anyway, the lady got upset, told me I was being rude for no reason, and walked away. I spoke to my sister-in-law about it, and she also felt I didn't handle it correctly. She has 3 girls and 1 boy, and said it is just a normal thing people comment on. She said people will tell her that her son is going to be feminine because he only has sisters, and she just shrugs it off, so I should have done the same. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Goodness, guys, reporting me for concern of self-harm is crazy.
This is a very common type of interaction that happens with our OP and the person at the park. Because her sister is correct. When people have all boys or all girls, that does come up a lot. Oh, are you trying for either a boy or a girl because you don't have one yet? I've heard that many times. But I could see where maybe a stranger might look at that and see that as being a harmless thing to say. Because I don't know if it's an attack on the boys so much as it's just a statement to be said.
I think the problem here stems with, rather than saying, are you trying to get a girl or are you trying to get a boy? She goes, oh, you poor thing.
And I understand that sounds like it got under her skin because I think she's taking it more as like a condescending statement.
Even I took it as a condescending statement.
I guess I would need to be there and hear how it was said. I understand though, it doesn't matter how it was said, it's how it made you feel. I can understand that, but context to me is important.
I agree with that as well.
So I can't really judge that one so much. I can only take it for how it made our OP feel. I don't see anything wrong with how she approached the conversation. She was met with a question and she gave it a proper answer. Sure, you can do the whole thing like most people would, shrug it off and keep moving, but she had an honest conversation with someone. They got hurt about it. Don't ask questions you don't want answers to.
That's fair.
So, OP, you're not the a-hole in my opinion.
Well, the consensus on Reddit is that our OP is not the a-hole. In fact, let me read one comment from the comment section so that you can see it from a different perspective. They said, not the a-hole. I'm one of 4 girls, and people always used to say to my dad, did you want a boy to play with? Right in front of us. They even say it to me when I mention I am one of 4 girls. It always stung a little, like, why wouldn't he want 4 daughters? We are great. And it still drives him mad, and he used to slam that one right down and make the person feel really stupid for saying something stupid, which made me feel better and confident. He is a proud girl dad and used to always finish by telling people how he must have been a saint in a previous life to have been blessed with all girls. You did the right thing, and your boys deserve to know that they're wanted and not a consolation prize.
I agree.
I think for me, this stems down to just because it's normalized doesn't mean that it's okay. And if you feel the need to go ahead and defend whatever it is that you need to defend, they shouldn't have started the conversation. I think in this case, she's very stand up for saying that she's happy with what she has. And never has she tried to fill a hole anywhere else because she feels fine with all the children that she has with her.
Good mom.
Agreed. Well, let's go to our very last story of the day and see if I can end it with a little spiciness. Am I the a-hole for transferring my assets to my daughter before my marriage? I, female 28, had my daughter, female 9, while still in college. I am ashamed to admit I don't know who the dad is. It was a drunken party mishap. My parents disowned me, and sympathizing with my plight, my grandpa took me in. He had a bad relationship with my dad. Grandpa died 2 years ago, leaving me his entire estate. He was kind of rich. I started dating my fiancé, Max, male 35, around 4 years back. He has 2 kids, female 6, male 10. He has full custody of them as well. Their mom married someone else and moved across the country. She pays child support, but makes no effort to contact them or visit them. We have lived together for over a year now, and everyone gets along pretty well. We stay at the house my grandfather left me and split all bills and expenses 50-50, but keep the rest of the finances separate. He popped the question 2 months ago, and I said yes. A few weeks ago, we had a minor fight. My daughter's birthday is coming up, and I wanted to gift her a pony. She has been learning to ride for a few years now and really wanted one. When I mentioned this to Max in a passing conversation, he got mad at me for wasting our money on stupid gifts like this. I told him I'm not taking anything out of our budget and just buying it out of my money. He said then I should buy his kids ponies too to make it fair. I said sure, let's split the expense. He told me I should buy it myself since I am rich, and it is my decision to buy my daughter a pony in the first place. That he is trying to make it equal for all kids in the household and don't have money to waste like this. I got his point, but I also felt that he would want me to make everything equal with his kids too. I get they will be my kids too, and I should not treat them different. But I also felt like my daughter should not have to split her generational wealth. It's not mine, it's my grandpa's, and he loved her. He left it to me believing I would pass it on to her. So I made a trust fund, transferring 50% of the assets I inherited into that. It has rules regarding reasons I can make a withdrawal out of, like education and separate living allowance based on age, money for marriage, for house, and entire balance made available at 30. I set up another trust fund for myself, putting 30% assets into it with yearly allowance, and then to dissolve after 50, hoping to retire then. Balance 20% is mostly the house, land, and emergency funds. I did it so whatever income I earn, I will be able to make it equally split within kids. But inheritance will stay intact for my or my daughter's future without having to split or be used for my stepkids. My fiance found out about this a couple days ago, saw some related papers in my drawer. He was really mad at me for cutting him and his kids out. He said if I was marrying him, we would be sharing all assets and finances, that it's not fair for me to keep 90% of my wealth just to myself and my kid when he was sharing all of his with us. I said I was sharing everything I make too, just the inheritance is kept aside. He's not bringing any inheritance into the union either. He said that's because he has none, and it's incredibly selfish of me to not share, to lock it away, that with this, my daughter will have a luxurious life while his kids have average life only once, since there is no way we can afford that for them with our income only. I said generational wealth is separate and it should go to bio family. He called me an a-hole for discriminating and depriving his kids of an equally good life. Am I the a-hole?
What the spice meatball? This one's really bad. So before we get into the story, I do have a question. How long has she been in this relationship with the fiance?
4 years.
And she had recently inherited all of this 2 years ago?
Correct.
Okay. I do like her financial acumen. It sounds like once her grandfather passed, which, by the way, he sounded like an amazing person. Good for him for loving her. Even though, yes, mistakes happened, that doesn't mean you're a bad person. My initial thought with this is I could understand where maybe the fiance feels a way, because I think a lot of people would be in that type of situation when they know their partner has, sounds again, generational wealth, but that's not a conversation it sounds like they've had. Not a real one anyway.
Not until the pony.
Yeah. This all starts with that pony because her daughter shows a lot of interest in it. Now his boneheaded reply to that was, well, now you have to get 2 ponies for my 2 children as well. Do they show the same interest in ponies? Have we ever heard any of that in the thing? Does she ever answer those questions for us? Because just doing that because it's equal and fair, that doesn't make any sense, especially if they don't love doing that the same way her daughter does. And I don't like the way her fiance speaks about the money. There's an ownership already, not just for him, but for his kids as well. That's not your money. That was given to her from her grandfather. That's an inheritance. I would be very wary of that situation. No one has the right to tell you what to do with your money, especially when it's talking about an inheritance. I don't believe you're the a-hole in my opinion. I would definitely have a conversation though and establish boundaries if you're going to continue with that relationship.
Well, our consensus for Redditors was our OP is not the a-hole. In fact, they went ahead and they pointed out Max's kids have 3 sources of income coming their way. Their dad, their mother, and our OP. how much more would their father really want for them to get? Because the only source of income that our OP's daughter is getting is just her mother's and Max. Well, let me go ahead and give you an update on this whole ordeal and see where it goes.
Please be good.
I know this is quick, but I am someone who always acts quickly. So here's the update. I had a much needed conversation with Max. I showed him the post, replies, advices, and experiences. He looked defeated to see this. At the core, there were two issues. 1, how much do I trust him? And 2, how do we handle finances moving forward? He told me he was ready to sign a prenup before I even asked if that would alleviate my worries. He said all he wants is to have everyone in the household to feel equal, to not make his kids feel resentful, to make it fair to everyone. I understood that. The fact is, there is no way it can be made fair to everyone. If I want to give my daughter the best of everything, I should give the same to his kids too. But that is not always possible even with our combined incomes. For example, if her love for riding stays, both me and her would prefer she attend a private school providing equestrian sports. Tuition for that and related costs can be availed from her trust, but we would not be able to afford to pay tuition for his kids out of our combined income. Trust is already set up, and even I cannot withdraw money for their tuition. Even if I could, I would be reducing my retirement funds or my daughter's inheritance. Same goes for car, tuition fund, and all other expenses my daughter will have covered. But even with our incomes, we can't give equally to Max's kids. Further, marriage is a big risk. Even with a prenup, if he takes on debt during course of our marriage, I would also be liable. A lot of the comments have instilled a lot of fear in me. I am also worried about the resentment finance is going to build. I love Max. I really do. But I love my daughter 1,000,000 times more. She is my life. I have to accept that her future and opportunities is more important to me than a marriage. At least for the next 9 years. Who am I kidding? Till my daughter can fully be independent. But I cannot fault him for wanting the same for his kids. He is just being a dad. But I cannot take away from my daughter to give to his kids. I can only give equal love and care to them, equal attention. Financially, we are just not compatible. Long story short, I gave back my ring. Engagement and marriage is off the table for now. After all, there is no real necessity to get married. We are both sad about this turn, but the fact he did not kick up a fuss is a bit reassuring. I really do believe our companionship is just as valuable to him as to me, just that we are also parents who want the best for our children. We don't know where our relationship is going. I would still like to have him in my life, but he is also free to leave and find another person. I did not ask him to leave, and he is staying for now. I will try to keep normal stuff equal between all, whatever I can afford to do out of my income. My daughter is still getting a pony. It's a gift from her great-grandpa, after all. I would not compromise her life and choices. My grandpa took me in for her sake. He left it all to me for her. I cannot compromise on that, and there is no need for 3 ponies. Neither of his kids know or has shown any interest in riding. If they want one after seeing my daughter with hers, we will be getting them riding lessons, and they can share. They will be getting the best birthday presents we can afford that aligns with their interests for their birthdays. If Max sticks around till then, I will also be protecting the house and land as well. He cannot make claims on it as far as I know, but I will be discussing it with my estate lawyer. Thank you for helping me see what I refused to. Love had me blind.
Good for her for sticking her foot in the ground and figuring out what was important to her. I know that probably could not have been easy for anyone in that household. All I'll say is good luck, because the one thing that breaks up people right after morals and values being different is finances. She's right. A lot of resentment could start boiling over when people start getting into debt, or all the other things that crop up along someone's life. When someone gets in trouble and they go, you could have just alleviated all of this with all of your money. I can only hope that for them, they are able to find a understanding for what that relationship is going to entail going forward. But very interesting story you've shared.
Yes, I thought it was one of those gray grounds. I can understand it from both their perspectives.
Sure.
Their parents looking out for their kids and wanting the best for their children. But there's so much gray ground here. It really is not his money to choose what to do with. It is her responsibility to look out for herself and her daughter. Neither are really at fault for their feelings. So in the end, I don't feel anybody is truly the a-hole here. I think this is just circumstances and feelings, truly. I do wish them the best.
I agree. Good luck for your future, and thank you for sharing the story. That's very interesting.
Agreed.
Was that our last one?
That was our last one.
Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, or follow and turn on notifications for new content. We regularly post on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We would also love to thank all of our patrons for your support. We truly appreciate it.
Yes, we love every single one of y'all. We look forward to hearing your thoughts and your opinions in the comments below. What did you think about the stories today? And remember, if you post it, maybe it's almost Halloween.
The witching hour.
From Voyse and I, please have an amazing and safe Halloween.
Happy Halloween!
Happy almost Halloween.